It's the new technique in racehorse recovery that has some of Australia's leading trainers in raptures. Richard Butterworth pioneered equine salt therapy to assist with high performance, rapid recovery and the ultimate well-being of thoroughbreds. Now, his system is widely deployed throughout Australia as trainers seek to have their horses perform at their peak at the highest level.
The main benefits are primarily as a dedicated decongestant. So a lot of the horses suffer from mucus issues, and the fine salt aerosol that we generate in the salt room is ingested deep into the horse's lung, and that effectively settles on the mucus and the sputum in the horse's lung and liquefies that, much like a Gravelax in a kitchen where you put it on a fresh fish, the salt turns it to jelly and liquefies that and clears it out rapidly. Skin conditions are also very quickly treated and fixed up. There could be boils and skin rashes. We've had mud fever, and in Sydney there's been some ringworm issues that have been very rapidly fixed from the salt therapy, where the salt settles on the coat of the horse, which heats up in the salt room. When the horse comes out of the salt room, and you know that any bacteria that comes in direct contact with salt is killed stone dead, there's no other outcome, that the horse cools and that salt is drawn in on a very large organ, which is the skin of the horse. The main aspect of the performance recovery part of the salt therapy is in the way that the sodium chloride hydrates the cell and helps to clear the lactic acid out during work. And this is quite effective through the hydration of the cell. The carbon dioxide is cleared out rapidly through the lungs and skin, and any lactic is dealt with in the liver in real time. So instead of us being woken up as human beings at 3 o'clock in the morning, they call that the liver hour. That wakes you up and disrupts your sleep and rest. The thing with the salt therapy is that it's able to deal with some of those issues in real time, so that the horses rest better, they recover better, and they perform better.
And it's not just a superstar racehorse that can use the treatment, it can be used on any horse at any time in work?
The real horses that benefit from this technology are the warriors, the horses that slog it out and compete on a regular basis and just sort of depleted of mineral salts. We've had a lot of success with some older horses who've made startling recoveries with Cranbourne as well, and they respond. And the reason being is that the horse is a grazing animal, and it derives a lot of its mineral salts from that grazing action out of the ground and earth. And when you put them in the race environment, you're taking them away from that, and they're depleting mineral salts, and this is why they respond so well. It's the horses that are really the soldiers, the warriors out there that are fighting on to keep themselves in optimal performance.
But Manigar hasn't Moody turned him around. Manigar races away, and Manigar beat American Drunken Sailor third.
It is a performance-driven industry, and this salt therapy, it sounds, is all about trying to get the best from these racehorses.
Absolutely, and that's why the top trainers have embraced what I've brought to them, and with such a willingness to explore something which is completely natural, and also salt is not unknown to equine professionals. They realise that there's some benefits involved in using salts with horses. When the horse is cremated at the end of its life, you're left with 12 mineral salts. So suffice to say, they're essential to the physiology of the horse.
But with the equine salt therapy, I suppose the proof is in the pudding. Peter Moody joins us. Peter, we're at the box where this takes place. As a racehorse trainer, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, we've been pleased. We went into it a little bit blind, and we did a bit of a test period with Richard and our veterinary group, Melbourne Equine, and You know, while probably some things are a little bit inconclusive, we've certainly seen benefits from it, you know, through not only their respiratory system, but skin ailments also. We've found it to be very beneficial, and particularly in Melbourne, where we have that sort of dampish climate and you struggle to dry things out. And horses are not only susceptible to coughs and colds, they're also susceptible to a lot of skin irritations and diseases and dermatitises, and it seems to work well there. And the big plus for me is it's natural.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, from a trainer's point of view, it's as important getting a horse to the races as it is after the races to get this horse back and recover well? Does it assist in that way?
Yeah, not only in racing but also in training, you know, pre and post. And probably post is a thing that's become a lot more significant, not only in our sport, in all sports. Once upon a time, a bloke would go and play a game of footy, or a horse would go and race and he'd get tied up in a stall, the bloke would play footy and go to the pub, have a cigarette and a beer. Now there's a cool down period and a stretch down, and then you want to make sure their airways are good and everything, and that's where I believe this certainly is a great aid to training.
And it's keeping no stone unturned to have your horses performing the way you want them to perform.
It's those little 1%ers that count. You know, unless you've got a black caviar, and unfortunately I've got a lot of them and I haven't found another one, it's that little 1% that can make the difference at the end of the day, whether it's in a Group 1 or a Class 1.
For you, is it 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, older horses? Does it discriminate as far as assisting?
I don't think so. Probably your younger, more immature horses are more susceptible to any type of bug attacking their system, a bit like children. In some ways their immune system's not built, so they're probably more susceptible. But I suppose then in the older horses you get the wear and tear, you can get a bit of, you know, scar tissue in the lungs and airways, you know, so it's got to aid that, I believe.
So early days with this, but you're an advocate of some sort.
Yeah, well, we've had the room probably a bit over a year now, and as you can see, it's still up and running, so we don't hang on to things too often if we don't believe in them.
Well, Richard, I think it's clear we are talking about a world first of sorts with the equine salt therapy.
Yeah, sure.
When was the moment that you thought, we might be onto something here, this might be something?
The light bulb moment, I guess, was really in discussions with my cousin who heads up the men's team for the Australian Olympic Swimming Organisation, and we've always talked about combining our skills and becoming race trainers ourselves. One of those youthful, romantic notions, but when you look at the industry, it's really a tough and a more of a romantic notion to go down that path. So I've developed this as a value add to the industry to assist the trainers, and that sort of occurred to me through looking at the success of the human version of this treatment in relation to some of the athletes that have embraced it, and discussing that, you know, with my cousin, and implementing some of the similar techniques, because a lot of the trainers use human type methodologies, and you'll find that a lot of the top trainers just adapt those to the equine world, and that's simply what I've done.
Well, Richard, the horse is now in the salt room, as it were. The timer is on, and it looks like you're set for 15 minutes.
Yeah, so what we're replicating is a microclimate that you'd find in some of the salt mines in Russia. They discovered that a lot of those small villages and towns had no instance of respiratory illness, and they attributed that to the fact that the people lived and worked in the salt mines. So we're trying to replicate that microclimate. So we have negative ions in that room, which is similar to what you'd find, you know, at the surf beach or in a rainforest or at a waterfall. So that means in your day-to-day, or the horse's day-to-day life, in their dusty stable environment, you know, they're surrounded by positive ions which are harmful, and we give them a 15-minute reprieve and sanctuary in the treatment room to just breathe in, and that combined with a lot of their other activities, as Peter said, with the 1%ers, that their swimming activities and everything combined helps to sort of recuperate the horse.
The salt is slowly filtering into that room, small particles, and the horse just stands there and accepts it.
The horse, if it breathes, it has to ingest the salt. And the important part about that is some important mineral salts are very difficult for the horses to ingest. Some of the magnesium sulfates, which aid in things like muscle recovery, the horses tend to leave in their feed because they're bitter and don't taste very nice. However, in this environment, the horse has no choice other than to ingest those salts.
in a way, if it's good enough for humans, good enough for horses, and vice versa.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the first things I did was got my vets to go down to the human salt therapy rooms and see what they thought of that. And I also contacted some of their leading football clubs here in Victoria that have utilised the facility. And, you know, like me, while they were certainly probably a little bit inconclusive on some issues, they saw benefits in it in a greater way. And you know, like I say, that sort of certainly the dampish climate that we have here for a greater part of the year, it's a great aid. But I think in any climate, even probably humid, where horses can suffer from airway problems, it'd be a great aid.
And from a horse's point of view, it would be fairly stress-free, natural stress-free. They stand there and they cop it, I suppose.
Yeah, well, we've set our room up like a back of a horse float, which they're all very used to. They come in, you can have one in there with a handler, you can have two in there. You know, and keeping one another company, and it is stress-free, and it's very, you know, it's not invasive at all. There's no pressure on the horse. Some can get slightly claustrophobic because you need to enclose the room, but let's be realistic, they're in a box with a little open top door most of their lives, so they quickly learn to handle it.
How the vets embrace this kind of technology? Vets, equine physios, they're all part of the racing stable. How have they taken to the equine salt therapy and the idea around it?
There's been a varied response to what I'm doing, because it's really taken the industry by storm, for use of better words. So, for example, some of the veterinary staff that we've got over at Cranbourne firmly believe that there's benefits in what we're doing, and so much so that they've engaged a clinical trial to commence out at that facility to prove the effectiveness of what they've actually seen and realised to be true. So that trial will be overseen by Melbourne University, and there's, you know, a lot of veterinary staff that are offering their time to conduct that trial, which at the end will be published in a respected journal in London called the EVJ, and that's basically the end game. So there's a level of self-belief with the veterinary community, and there's also veterinary practitioners that want to protect their own little patch because they have businesses to look after, and I understand and respect that side of it. However, what I would suggest to the owners and trainers is that they ask those veterinary people, have they been in a salt room? If the answer's no, then take their opinion with a grain of salt.